Okay, this is how to stretch a canvas for painting on. First thing you're going to need are stretcher strips, and I've got a few here. The most important thing is you have to make sure that the top and the bottom one are the same, and the two side ones are the same. They have the measurement printed on them. If for some reason they don't, just do a visual measurement. And most of the canvases that we're going to do are going to be a rectangle. And so I've got two 24s, I've got two 18s. Another thing you want to make sure of is that you have all the same type. You'll see that there are some here that are flat on one side and have a higher ridge. Those are different from this kind. And if you were to put them together, you'll see that they're uneven, and that would mess up your canvas. So just check to make sure they're all the same size first before you get started. And they fit together at the corners. They've got little grooves. Some of them are looser and some of them are tighter. If it's a little difficult to put them together, just tap them together with a hammer. Fit those together like that. There we go. Okay, so what you're looking for here is you want to make sure that the corners really meet up with each other. You don't want them to be off center at all like that. So that will show. So make sure those are really tightly together. And that's where if they're tight and they're kind of hard to get together, you can always tap them together with a hammer. Then one thing that I always like to do is to put a little staple going across to hold them in that position. Sometimes when you're stretching the canvas, the act of pulling the canvas will pull it out of square. So take your staple gun, and you want to get this part kind of centered over that crack. Lean it forward and add in a staple, and you can see that it bridges that gap. Then you can see I've already got the roll of canvas unrolled here, so I need to cut a piece of canvas to fit this so that there's a little bit of overlap. So something like this is way more overlap than you need. You want to kind of conserve the canvas. I want you to conserve the canvas. So something like this, where there's just enough overlap on this side, there's enough on this side, that'll be okay. So then we're going to cut it out. When you're cutting the canvas, try to plan out for other people to be able to use it too. Don't do it like right in the middle, because then you've got pieces on either side that would be too small for anybody to use. You want to plan for as little waste as possible. Okay, there's that. This is good. What I want to make sure of now is that I have this so that it's really lined up with the weave of the canvas. There's a weave going this way and a weave going that way. If you have a finished edge like this, I think it's best to get it lined up with that finished edge. That looks pretty even. You don't want it to be off center at all like this, because then it'll pull unevenly and it can pull your canvas out of square, and it can warp it so that it wouldn't lay flat when it's hanging on the wall. So I just want to make sure that it's even all the way around. Now I'm going to start by just laying one of the edges of the canvas over the stretcher, and I'm going to start with a staple in the middle. Now, a word about the staple gun. If I can do this, anybody can. I'm not terribly strong. I see people trying to, use it like this with their fingers. Your thumbs and your fingers don't have as much strength as your arm and your shoulder. So try to get the staple gun in the hollow of your hand so that you're really pushing down on it with your whole arm, and then almost kind of lean over it and push down. Then your staple will go in. If you're just kind of squeezing like this, it's going to hurt and you won't really get it go into the wood. So now I'm going to leave a space of about 2 inches and do my second staple, and I'm going to alternate outward about every 2 inches. You'll notice I'm trying to get them lined up with each other. I'm also making sure that they're parallel to the stretcher strip. The second side, we're going to be stretching that, and this is where it's really a two-person job. So the first thing I like to do before I stretch it is fold over the canvas and just put kind of a placeholder staple in, kind of loose. That just keeps it from flapping when you're stretching it. And this is the part where you need another person. So now, this is where you need another person. And one person will stretch the canvas and the other person will staple. So it's really important to get it stretched very tightly over the stretchers. If you just pull it a little and staple it, it's going to be too loose. So here's what I do. I tip it up this way so that the canvas is facing me. You can see I'm pinching the canvas like this, and I've got my other fingers on top. And I'm going to be pushing it up and over the stretcher bar. So I even kind of brace it against myself, and I push away from myself with my thumbs and brace it up and over the stretcher. Hold it steady, and then it gets stapled. So then I'm going to go about 2 inches over to one side. Same thing, pry it up and over, and really make sure that I'm not getting any wrinkles in it. So if I'm doing this and I realize that I've got some wrinkles or there's a little gap, I need to re-stretch that. You don't, if you leave wrinkles in between your staples, it'll be like that on your canvas and they'll show. So you want it to be very nice and smooth. So now we're going to do the third side the same way that we did the first side. So go back and pull out your staple that you did. Make sure when you're pulling out staples that your hand isn't in the way, because if you slip, you're going to stab yourself with a screwdriver, and that hurts a lot. So instead, now you don't really have anything to pull against here, so you're just going to start in the middle and alternate your way out, making sure about every 2 inches or so, just that the canvas is flat. So, you know, we're not pulling on this side because there's nothing to stretch against. We're going to do this just like we did the second side. So this one we're really stretching. We're going to start in the middle. We're going to alternate outward again about every 2 inches. Back of your canvas, and you're going to want it to lay flat on the wall. So here's how you do it. On the side of your canvas, you're going to end up with a little fold. So if you pinch and then crease down, you'll see there's a little fold on the side. So you hold that straight with your thumb, and then you spread the extra out, and we're going to staple that down. So you can see here it's nice and flat. So I'll put one staple there, and I'll put another one there. And you can see that that lays nice and flat. This little corner part is typically always on the side, and so if you're doing a horizontal format, then you want it on the side here. If you're doing a vertical format, then it would be on this side, so that the fold would be on the side here. pinch. You've got that little crease here. Fold it down so that you've got the corner on the side. Anchor it with your thumb, and then spread the rest of it out so that it's flat. On the back, you'll see that it's flat going along one side and angled on the other, and you just staple that.